Hi everybody, it's Usernamekate and welcome back to my channel. Today I am at the global launch of Triumph's Speed 400 and Scrambler 400X. And what better time whilst I have the two bikes in front of me to answer your questions. So if you're interested to hear some frequently asked questions about these bikes, then keep watching and I'll play the intro. Right guys, let's jump right in with the first question. Now the first question that I was asked was, what are the differences between the two 400 variants? So starting with this is designed as more of a modern classic road bike. Of course this one visually is more Scrambler-esque. The Speed has a much lower seat height at 790mm. Now I'll insert a clip here of me sitting on this bike so you guys can get an idea of what it's like for somebody my build and stature to sit on this. And then with the Scrambler we have a seat height of 835mm, so it is a little bit taller, but that is expected with a Scrambler. Of course, with the Speed 400 we have some more road biased attributes and features. So for example, we have a 17-inch front. Then with the Scrambler we have a 19-inch front, so it is a more capable wheel for off-roading if you want to dabble in that. It's not quite as extreme as a 21-inch front, but this is a more road focused bike that you can dabble in the green lane in if you want to. It's not a hardcore dedicated off-road endurance bike by any means. Since we have a 19-inch on the front, we do have a slightly different suspension. They're both 43mm upside down forks, but with the Scrambler we have 150mm of travel and we have 140mm of travel on the Speed. Again, with the discs and the brakes to accommodate the different wheel sizes. On the Speed we have a 300mm disc, and then on the Scrambler we have a 320mm disc. Both the calipers are the same. They are by Bibri, which is kind of an offshoot of Brembo, made for that smaller capacity bike market, so they can make them cheaper but give them enough stopping power. And with the Scrambler we have slightly different pads, so they're not as bitey on first application of the brake, which is kind of good if you're off-roading. It's a bit more of a gradual front brake if you decide to use that. And then with the Speed it is a bit more responsive, should we say. 170 kilograms, 179 kilograms. So she's a little bit more weighty, but she's a little bit more reinforced with different foot pegs, weightier, more sturdy foot pegs. We've got a much more sturdy looking brake pedal, gear selector on this. So with this we have switchable traction control but non-switchable ABS. With this we have switchable ABS and traction control. So with this it completely disengages the ABS, not just off the rear, it's completely no ABS, so you can just go wild off-road if you wish. With these bikes the traction control isn't staged, it's not in levels, it's either on or off. Same with the ABS on this one. Some other differences, of course, we have things like the mirrors. So we have the bar end mirrors on this. We have the more generic circular mirrors on the Scrambler. This has completely different bars to the Scrambler. The Scrambler has the taller bar with the crossbar across it, with the Triumph pad there. And we do have some adjustability with this bar where we can, move it to suit our riding position. With the Scrambler we also have handguards as well. We have this lovely headlight guard, and also we have a rad guard as standard. Now these bits are available for the Speed, certainly the headlight grille and the rad guard, as an optional extra. So with the Scrambler we do have a longer wheelbase, we've certainly got a longer swing arm. However, they are geared exactly the same because we do have a longer chain on this, and it is just, they've used their witchcraft and magic to make it so that they are geared the same, so you won't find any advantages over one or the other. Obviously, because the Scrambler has a 19-inch front, it means that the geometry of the bike is quite different to the Speed, so we have a more extended rake in comparison to the Speed, which just allows the Speed to be a bit nippier and point and shoot when you're tackling the tight, twisty country lanes or mountain roads as it is in Spain. The tyres are different on these bikes. So on the Speed 400 we are rocking Metzeler M9 RRs, which are a very grippy, sporty road tyre. And then on the Scrambler 400X we do have the Metzeler Carews, which are slightly more dual purpose and great for tackling the shale and the gravel as we experience today. So the second question that I got asked was, why is the Scrambler £600 more than the Speed? Well, there are a few reasons which don't necessarily first meet the eye. With the chassis it is a bit more reinforced, a bit more rigid to cope with off-roading, and with that kind of material comes a bit more of a cost. The bars are different to the Speed, which again they're more expensive bars on the Scrambler. We also have things like the handguards, which is an extra feature which costs money. Same with the headlight guard, with the rad guard. Also the tech on this bike, you know, they've had to make it so that they can switch the ABS off as well as the traction on this, which is another extra feature. So overall, bit by bit, these little additions do just kind of mount up and create a more expensive machine than the Speed 400. So the third question that I got is, are these bikes appropriate for people that are over 6 foot? Well, I'm going to insert some riding footage today of my friend Alex from Bike Matters. Now, he was in front of me for a lot of the day and he is, I want to say, 6'2". So you guys can get an impression of what he looks like on the Speed as well as on the Scrambler. Now, I asked him directly, as someone of your size, how did you find the two different bikes? And he said, although the Speed was manageable, you know, if he rode it all day, it could potentially feel a little bit more compact than he would like. And he did say that he preferred, you know, the bigger size of the Scrambler 400X. Now for me personally, I'm 5'4" with a 29-inch inside leg measurement, and I was most comfiest on the Speed 400 with my stumpy little legs. It was much easier for me to touch the ground, and with that just comes increased confidence. So back to the original question, can you ride these both as someone who is over 6 foot? I mean, everybody had ridden these bikes today and they all had a great time, and a lot of them were over 6 foot. But they do kind of suggest that there is a preference for this bike, with it being a taller seat height of 835mm compared to the 790mm. Kind of feel like that was always going to be the case though. But it's always worth trying one, demoing one, taking one out with a dealer. That is when you'll really know whether a bike is suited to you. The fourth question that I got asked was, where are these bikes made? So there is usually a preconception that all Triumphs are made in Britain, in the UK, from the Hinckley factory. Well, that is not the case with these bikes. These bikes are aiming for mass market appeal. So Triumph do have an agreement with the Bajaj factory where the Triumphs, the 400s, are all manufactured. So where are they made? For now, India. However, depending on the demand of the global market, they are expecting to open factories in Thailand and also in Brazil. And what we found out was that if you are a UK customer later down the line and the demand has been quite wild, you could actually end up with a bike from either India, Thailand or Brazil, and you wouldn't know because the quality will be all to the same standards throughout all the factories, but you could end up with a bike from either place or any of the places. So yeah, I found that very, very interesting, but that is the case with the 400 range. So the fifth question that I received was, has quality been sacrificed and compromised to hit such a low price point and entry price into the market? Well, I've been on these all day, I've been sat on them, I've been crouched down looking at them. On first glance, the quality does look typically Triumph in my opinion. I've owned some Triumphs, I've ridden plenty of the press fleet, and one thing that I do think is that the quality of Triumphs are pretty darn good. Now I suppose looking at these bikes, I was trying to be really picky and see if I could see things that, you know, I didn't quite like aesthetically, or, you know, could have been of concern. And I guess the only thing that I could really pick at, if I was being mega picky, was I don't think the welds on the subframe are particularly neat. However, the engine looks wonderful, it looks really well put together, it looks expensive for what you pay to get this bike. All the other little bits, like, you know, the LED lights all around, you know, they look really good and really expensive. The quality of the paint, it looks beautiful, the logos, the designs, just gorgeous. Even if we look at the side covers, they've got some real nice quality finishes on there that just make the bike look expensive. I suppose if you wanted to be really picky, you could whinge and say that the bikes don't have a TFT dash. They do have an analog dash with an LCD display. Again, it's in keeping with a more retro look, but it's also keeping the cost down. So I guess a more fancy dash with, you know, Bluetooth and smartphone connectivity may have been sacrificed in order to meet those price points. But I guess Triumph deemed that those things weren't of a customer's priority and that they'd rather other things. Yeah, so has quality been sacrificed to get it to that price point? Overall, as a whole package, I really don't think so. Of course, the proof will be in the long-term ownership, which unfortunately I can't share with you right now because this is my first time riding these bikes. But of course, we like to keep the body of information and people's experiences and anecdotes open to the public. So if you own one of these bikes and, you know, you do develop any kind of issues, feel free to put them in the comments below, because then we know what to look out for when we're buying bikes. But so far, on first impressions, the quality looks pretty good. One of the questions that I got was, do the 400s feel strained at 70 miles an hour? Are we wringing their necks to get them to that speed? The answer is no. Yeah, 70 miles an hour, it's got quite a nice song to it as well. You can sit at 70 quite happily on this bike. I can personally, as somebody who is just over 9 stone, but I've been riding with all kind of people today with all kind of bodily weights and masses, and none of us have appeared to struggle getting to 70 miles an hour. In fact, it has been reported that some of us saw a ton or 100 miles an hour on the speedo. Can't possibly confirm or deny that, but it just gives you an idea of what the bikes can get up to. Another part of that question was, what is the pull like 50 to 70 miles an hour? Now, we've been overtaking cars on, you know, long dual carriageway type roads, and it does not have a problem whatsoever. It's a very torquey, very tractable engine. We've got 37.5 newton meters of torque, but it's available so early. It's available from like 3,000, 3,500 RPM. So 80% of it available right there. It really does have some pull and some grit to it. So yeah, it's not gutless at all, and it will pull the skin off a rice pudding. Another question, fuel economy. What is it like? The fuel economy, the figures that Triumph quote, it's not lies. We've experienced it riding round the whole day today. We've been up on twisty bits, mountain roads. We've done some, you know, kind of bashing some miles out on some longer, faster roads. We've just kind of done a little bit of everything, urban riding, fast flowing riding, and when we went to fill the bikes up at the end of the day, ready for the next people, I literally had 1 bar that had gone, and then when I rolled into the petrol station, another bar came off. We were getting 80 miles to the gallon, riding how we were. We weren't riding like dither and dilberts. We were actually, you know, having some fun on them twisties, and yeah, it was really surprising on fuel. It is a very economical single cylinder. However, having said that, that might be the case because it just seems to pull from any gear. So we're riding around town in 4th and 5th, you go around a nice bend, you whack it on, blah blah blah, it picks up real nice. There's literally no reason to ride these in the low gears around town. It's just not necessary. Like 3rd gear is absolutely fine for 20 mile an hour, just bimbling round. So yeah, that probably contributes to why it's so economical. Right, I've whipped my phone out, not because I'm totally unprofessional, but because I've had some questions from the patrons today about the bikes, so I'm going to try and answer them. So we have SB97 who said, can you comment on how the bikes perform in real world speeds please? Is there enough power on open roads, or are they best suited for scooting around town and slower back roads only? No, in my honest opinion, these bikes are absolutely fine for any kind of riding that you want to do. If you want to do some motorway, you know, you'll get there, it'll sit comfortably at 70 mile an hour. You know, you might want to get some kind of screen for it and Triumph's, you know, optional accessories, just to help with, you know, a bit of comfort and wind blast. But in terms of power, this bike, despite being a 400cc, doesn't struggle at all in my opinion. So how do the bikes perform in real world speeds? Just lovely. Just test ride one and you'll see exactly what I mean. So SB97 also said, what is the running cost going to be like? Home mechanic or specialist servicing requirements only? What are the service intervals? Like with any new bike, if you buy it from a dealership and you want to keep a warranty up to date, these bikes have a 2-year manufacturing warranty. You have to get it serviced in line with what the dealership advise you to keep the warranty active. If you want to tinker with it at home, I'm sure you could probably tinker with it yourself in between the dealership services. But if you're a home mechanic, you're obviously going to run the risk of, you know, voiding your warranty if you don't have that stamp in the service book. Unfortunately, that is just how the world is. However, the service intervals on these bikes are actually market leading. So these bikes, you only need to have them serviced every 10,000 miles or 16,000 kilometers, or annually, depending on what comes first. Now, with regards to the competition, say Royal Enfield's 350s, you have to service those bikes every 3,000 miles or 6 months, depending on what comes first. I know KTM 390 service intervals are, you know, a little bit higher. I think possibly, don't quote me on this, maybe 6,000 mile service intervals or a year. But with this, it's 10,000, and I believe the valve clearance checks are every 20,000 miles. So obviously, if you don't put a lot of miles on a bike, you're going to have to get it done annually anyway. But if you are somebody that wants to put mega miles on a bike, then those long extended service interval mileage limits are actually pretty good on this bike. And then SB97 finally said, who is Triumph aiming these machines towards? Power for the masses or focused on a fashionable few? Well, I think this bike will absolutely storm India. It's the first time Triumph have produced that low capacity motorcycle which does so well on the roads of India. I think these bikes are opening up Triumph to a completely different audience, because you couldn't get a 125 from Triumph, you couldn't get anything really less than a 900 that's kind of out the new bikes that are available. So this really does bridge a gap. It's good for A2 riders, it's good for people that maybe want a second bike that's, you know, quite cheap and light. It might be better for older riders who are struggling with the joints and the bones a little bit and just want something a little bit lighter that they can take out for a ride. Or it can suit people like me that are quite short in the limb and just want a fun, punchy engine where they can actually feel confident and touch the ground and feel like they're on a big bike, because these don't feel small. Like when you're on them, they feel pretty substantial. So yeah, I think they're going to do really well with these because of the price and because of how well they ride. So I have a question from a patron, Pete Watson. He said, what is the tech on them? Weight and power also, and is the X a true adventure bike? Well, the tech on them, you know, it doesn't have much tech. We don't have any kind of riding modes on this one at all. We have a analog dash with an LCD screen. It's not TFT, it's not colour, it's not connected to your smartphone if you want it to be. We don't have any quick shifters or blippers. We don't have anything wild and extra, say. But the tech on this, again, we've got the traction control, we've got ABS, which you can't switch off, but of course everything has ABS. But it does have some nice information available on its dash. So we've got gear indicators, fuel gauge, fuel range. We also have a USB-C socket, which is at the side, which is quite handy for charging a phone on the go. We have LED lights all round, we have a ride-by-wire throttle, and of course the switchable traction control as well. P also asked about the weight and power. So power on these, 40 PS or 39.5 brake horsepower, and the weight, the speed is slightly lighter at 170 kilograms, and the Scrambler 400X slightly heavier at 179 kg. And then finally, is the Scrambler 400X deemed as a true adventure bike? Well, anything can be an adventure bike if you're willing to go on an adventure. But with regards to this, it's comfy, you're upright, you know, you have a front wheel, a nice size capable of tackling anything. We've got tyres that accommodate that. We can luggage this up with accessories if you wanted to and make it a proper touring weapon if you did want to go further afield. I think it could be an adventure bike. I don't think it's a true off-road bike, you know, otherwise it would probably have adjustable front suspension, it would probably have longer travel, it would have a 21-inch front, but of course that would all bump the cost up. And also I think Triumph recognise that the people that buy this are predominantly going to buy it for its looks and aesthetics, but still want a road bike, as opposed to actually hopping off-road and, you know, giving it a whip around, which it can do. Gently. And then finally, Pete Knight says, looking at a Speed 400 for my wife Jane, so what's it like for the short-legged and what's its ability at normal road speeds like? For short-legged people, it's brilliant. Quite a skinny seat so you can get your feet down, but also it is mega light, so that does take the fear away if you do have even shorter legs than me of not being able to touch the floor all that well, because it is so light, which it all just adds to being more confidence inspiring. And with regards to its abilities at normal road speeds, absolutely fine. I didn't find myself wanting more power. In fact, I actually found working the throttle and really commanding the power and eking it out of the bike really fun on the twisty lanes. Probably more satisfying than something that just has the power there. You actually got to work it and feel like you're bonding with it. It's quite fun. So one of the questions that I got was, what does the bike sound like? So I'm just going to play you a clip now of the bike's running, and we'll insert some riding footage as well, so you can hear what it's like when it's under load. Right everybody, that is the end of this vlog. I hope I managed to answer any burning questions that you guys and girls have. If I haven't and you do have some more questions, please let me know in the comments below and I will try my best to answer them based on my experience here today riding these lovely little whippersnappers. Right guys, if you haven't considered hitting that subscribe button, please do. It always helps my channel and I'm forever grateful. And until the next time, take care and ride safe. Bye! Then with the Scrambler we have a 21, no we don't have a 21-inch front, Jesus. Bajaj. So Triumph have an agreement with Bajaj, can't say it. Bajaj. Bajaj, bajaj. I'm not very eloquent. No, 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 no. Bajaj, bajaj. Pull the skin off a rice pudding. What the friggity hell? You've just been ridden or not? Have you just been ridden? They're quite warm.
Yeah, they're obviously. No, you can do this one.
Bajaj, bajaj.